All right. Welcome to I think it's the fifth is this the 15th episode of ology? It might be the 15th. Yeah, I should really do the math before I start these things. But um I'm really excited about this. I'm excited about it every week. What am I saying? Growing up, I grew up in the Boston suburbs, and every time I got a little indignant or expressed a little kind of frustration with my surroundings, I remember people saying to me, like, wait until you get out into the real world. And when you're in, when you hear that enough times, you think, well, where is the real world? And if you start to look around and you're in Boston, you look east, you don't get very far. You're in the ocean. So, like so many young men before me, I had to look west for inspiration of the real world. And I found it in a lot of the authors and songwriters and musicians that are kind of associated with the American West. People like Edward Abbey and Cormac McCarthy, and then musicians and writers like Jerry Jeff Walker and Guy Clark and Jimmy Dale Gilmore and Townes Van Zandt, and the list goes on and on and on. A lot of people seem to be kind of centered out of Texas, and the Texas artists just seemed so real and so weathered and wise. And I thought, okay, someday I will have to go to Texas to find the real world. But upon graduation from high school, I graduated from Reading High in Reading, Massachusetts. I wasn't quite brave enough to make a full, proper Western migration, so I decided to go to Maine, the Texas of New England. And that is such an apt analogy in so many ways. And I went to Maine to attend a liberal arts school called Bates College. And I discovered the college through my high school tennis coach, and he was an alumni. And I was drawn to the place by the genuinely nice and down-to-earth student population that I interacted with when I visited. They just seemed so nice and so down-to-earth and so just chill. Don't they know that I'm doing an ology? Why does everybody keep calling me now? Um, my guest today is a musician friend that I didn't actually know went to Bates until very recently, but I'm not surprised because she too is genuinely nice and very down to earth. So let's welcome Elisa Amador, and I'm going to bring her in here. There she is.
Ah,
Hey, how you doing?
good. It's so good to see you, Mark.
That's
Hear your stories again. You're such
that's really why I do this, just so I get to see people I want to see. Where are you coming to us from now? Are you home?
I'm home in Cambridge, Massachusetts, so not far.
Nice. Lovely. Lovely. Well, let's get this right out of the way because I don't want to dwell on the differential here. I am the class of 1996 and you are the class of
2018.
2018. Okay.
Yeah.
It's great.
The year you graduated, the year I was born.
Yeah, I was like, she's gonna say that, and I know I know she's gonna say that, and it's okay. Maybe earlier in the year, I would have been, just shocked by that, but almost nothing shocks me anymore. So I just wanted to. I'm interested in talking about the similarities and the differences between our experiences at what was ostensibly the same school, but I'm sure, like us, that school also kind of changed and evolved over those 22 years. So let's start at the beginning. So I just gave my little Bates origin story. Like, how did you discover Bates? And once it was on your radar, like, what compelled you to go there?
All right. Well, first of all, let's get the graduation year. Let's clear it out. The difference in graduation years. I just want to say that I could never have guessed that you graduated that year and that you are truly a timeless man.
Oh, that's very sweet of you. Thank you.
So now I will move on to my origin. I didn't want that to be like that last note. I wanted it to be on the high note.
That's very kind of you.
It's just the truth. All right. Let's see. So Bates, I didn't know about Bates until like I was starting to look at colleges. and it was totally outside of my radar. I went to a super progressive liberal arts high school in Weston called
Okay.
School,
Yeah.
Cambridge School of Weston, and that school fed into places like Smith College, Oberlin College, Hampshire College. Those were the main schools that people would end up at, like or Colorado College, like very student oriented,
Yeah.
self led, rigorous but in a very like unusual way sort of thing.
For
So
sure.
Bates wasn't on the radar. Like there weren't any students in my high school going to Bates, and no one in my family knew about Bates. Out of all the places in New England, Maine was the place where I had spent little to zero time. And so it really was not something that I like. There are a lot of people that have like their grandfather and their great grandmother and their great aunt and their parents, and it's just like the list goes on. And so they wanted to follow in those footsteps, and they'd heard about Bates for a long time. I was not one of those people. The way I found out about Bates was through a teaching fellow at the high school where I went, who was just
Okay.
really amazing person, like very creative, very down to earth, as you say, and just like we bonded over music. Actually, that's how we met. She was assisting in a photography class that term, and I was in the photography class, a black and white film photography class, because this is a liberal arts high
Right.
school.
Yes.
So we were in the black and white film photography class, and a lot of the class time was spent developing photos and in the dark room.
Yeah.
And it's so dark and creepy in there. You need to have music playing, or else you're gonna get scared and have nightmares. So we would put on music, and mostly like you had to find music that all of the 10 students in the class would be
Right.
okay to listen to. So most of the time it was Beyonce. But every once in a while I got to play something that I wanted to listen to. Not that I didn't want to listen to Beyonce, but anyway. I put on this music by a Japanese American artist called Kishibashi. And this teacher asked me who it was, and we realized that we loved a lot of the same music. And we eventually actually started meeting during lunch periods to play music together.
Oh,
So
that's wild.
that was like through a friendship, really, was
Yeah.
how my time at Bates came to be. But
Now,
through
that person was a teacher at Bates, or they
a
were.
fellow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. And so then you like. So what were the first impressions going up north to Maine and to see this place? Because it's a bit of a. It's only a couple hours north of Boston, but it's a journey. You know, it's
Yeah.
more than 120 miles or so.
Yes, it is. It's like another world. It was really good. Like it was a good shaking to reality in a way that I hadn't received in Cambridge. Like a different. It's just a different place, and
Yeah.
the campus community was very excited on the day that I went as a prospective student. Everyone was very hyped up about getting students to come to campus, but
Yeah.
but something that was very clear was that it was a very like it was a place where students were really oriented towards connection, more
Yeah.
kind of competition.
Man, that's amazing to hear you say that because that was exactly my impression. I remember applying to a couple other liberal arts colleges in New England, which will remain nameless, and I remember talking to some alumni that they just could not believe I was turning X or Y school down to go to a place like Bates, and they couldn't understand it, and I was like, that's why I'm going there, like that kind of like down to earth, like non-competitive, kind of spirit. It was very palpable to me, and it's interesting to hear, you experiencing that, all those years later. It's just like it's baked into the place. It's a real thing.
Yeah, no, it really is tangible from the moment you walk on. It's like people are just that's oriented towards connection and working hard and growth and all of
Yeah,
those things. But there was not this the competition
yeah,
that I felt in other, which was so interesting because it's such a difficult school. Oh God,
yeah,
I kept
sure.
but it was an amazing education. But it's so
Yeah.
nice to competition.
Yeah. Now, was it your first? Did it end up being your first choice? Like, is that once you found it, was you were you like, this is my place?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and I tried really hard to not have any first choices because I knew that like, oh, college, you don't know what's gonna work out, who's gonna give you enough financial aid, da, da, da.
Yeah.
And it just worked out that that was also the most affordable place to go, and I like didn't let myself say that I loved it until I found out
Yeah.
that I could afford it, and it was such a gift.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, I mean, visiting a place and kind of building it up in your mind from the outside is very different than like being dropped off at the dorms and watching your parents, drive away, and then you're there. Um, was it kind of love at first sight, and was it the perfect match that you thought it would be, or did you have to kind of learn to love it, or was it a little bit of both, but in depending on the area we're talking about?
It's kind of nuanced. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this too, but um, as a person who knew even then that music was my path, but also knowing that I had a lot more to learn, and so I chose that place because I knew it was where I could probably grow best. Um, I struggled every year with just not being sure if I needed to I laugh at it now, but if I needed to start touring already and stop
Oh,
studying.
oh wow.
Funny
Oh man.
because I just felt so purposeful playing music, and
Yeah.
but I'm so grateful that I stuck through it every year. There was a moment of doubt. I'm like, is this the best way for me to be purposeful right now, is to be in school? And it was always, I always came back to, yes, it is, but there was this moment of like, I don't know if I'm supposed to keep doing it, which is just so funny to think back now, because I'm glad that also deep down I knew that even with whatever tribulations every year, um, it was what I needed to grow, and I had felt that from day one, and I felt that till the last day I was studying there.
That's fascinating. I mean, I suspected that you kind of came to Bates kind of hitting the ground running, sort of musically speaking. Kind of coming, you kind of came up in your parents' band, I assume, like
It did, yeah.
Canto, right? Is the band, and I figured that you would have hit the ground running musically there, and that would have been a big part of your life there. For me, it was. I had done like rock and roll bands in high school, and kind of flirted around with that sort of stuff and loved it, and I'd done musicals, but I didn't really start playing guitar and writing songs and getting interested in that until I went there. And I also, when I went there, when I started going there, I didn't drink. I wasn't like a wild like high school student, at all. Rock and roll was pretty much the wildest. Like, if we were playing at a party and the cops came, they'd shut us down because we were too loud, not because I was drinking. So when I went there, I was really excited about it. But one of the things that was interesting about Bates at that time, and I don't think anyone would say that this isn't a fair critique from that time, kind of mid early 90s, was that there wasn't a huge emphasis on kind of non-alcoholic campus programming. So I was really excited about. I played tennis at Bates. I was really excited about the tennis coach and the tennis team, and I was excited about the classes I was taking. But then the weekend comes, and you want to take a break from all that stuff, and you're like, what can I do? And there just wasn't. I didn't perceive a lot of alternatives to like going to parties and all that stuff. And I was nervous about all that stuff. I didn't know what to do. And
Yeah.
so music for me was this kind of like refuge during that time. And I actually really struggled at first. I was like, am I in the right place? Should I have gone to a different college? Like this, I'm not finding like my people here. I'm not finding my thing other than, the work of it. And so I would end up in the back stairwell of I was in the Smith dorms when I lived there. Did you have any time there in the Smith dorms?
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
live. I had friends who lived there.
Yeah. I was in Smith South, which was for like the quiet kids, you know.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It kind of got progressively wilder as you went from Smith South to Middle to North. I was in
Sure.
Smith South, and I would just start playing guitar in the back stairwell of the dorm, and it was this big kind of concrete, echoey stairwell. And to this day, to me, that's how music should sound,
Yes.
in that like it did in that stairwell.
Wow.
And I came to music there that way, and then I started to kind of find my confidence and started to share music with people on campus and started to figure out ways to you can enjoy a beer and you don't have to be, blitzed out or anything, and kind of loosened up a little bit. And then, me and Bates, very tight. It was great.
Wow.
But I had to kind of grow to love it in a way that I wasn't expecting at first.
Heck yeah. Wow. I can really identify with that with that feeling of isolation when you just have other ways to cope with everything that don't involve substances and the prominent culture of drinking in colleges can be really isolating.
Sure, and it's not it's certainly not kind of special debates that happens everywhere. I don't mean to imply that we had a particularly bad problem, but it was just it's a part of the young people's lives at that point in their journey, and there's a lot about it that's fine. There's a lot about it that's not fine, and but that isolation, it's funny. I remember going out to those back stairwells and just kind of luxuriating in the solitude and just thinking like, okay, I'm socially safe. I'm like enjoying myself. I'm figuring out how to play guitar. I'm teaching myself these songs, and I'm doing it. And I'm all alone, and I was all alone until one night. I finished a song, and like the applause started happening from the floor below me. There was like a whole crowd on the landing in the dark that I didn't even know was there, like the whole time. So, I mean, it's interesting. So, music at Bates. Let's talk music at Bates. Like,
let's dive in.
Right. So, when I got there during freshman orientation, I did not really know how to play guitar yet. I knew a few chords.
Wow.
There was a talent show, right? I mean, it's weird, right? But there was a talent show during the freshman orientation, the first year orientation, and this young woman, I remember her name was Washeng. She was an Asian American young woman, and she played Joni Mitchell's Gallery. And I didn't even know that Joni Mitchell song, and I was a Joni Mitchell fan. I'd never heard it, but I was just so utterly compelled by that performance. I just was so profoundly moved that I immediately kind of set out learning how to evoke that kind of response in other people. I wanted to make people feel the way that I felt.
Wow.
Like, you already knew how to sing, I'm sure, and play guitar when you got to Bates. We were talking about how you hit the ground kind of running musically. Like, were you that girl with the guitar in that freshman orientation talent show? Was that you?
Oh my God. It's funny. You should ask. I don't think so. But I did play in that freshman talent show. It was actually, I think, the most terrifying performance I've ever given. I mean, your first day of school in a gymnasium in front of 800 plus people who are your classmates for the next 4 years. And you're supposed to feel like calm about it.
Yeah.
So I did sign up. I was like, oh, it'll be a nice way to connect with people. And then I was more terrified than I've ever been in my life. And I could not play the guitar. My hands were shaking too much. Aww. They were shaking. But I still played through the whole song, and everyone said, woo! And people were really nice about it. People said really nice things about it. But in my memory, I'm not that girl who was amazing at the time.
What did you play?
I played High and Dry by Radiohead.
Oh wow, okay. Really
but
cool.
I played this Latin American version of it that's it's still hard for me to play, and I've been practicing it since I was 16 years old.
Oh, that's wild. Well, it'd be interesting to talk to some of your classmates, because I'm sure that Washeng was also nervous when she played for my class, and I'm not. I think I've talked to her about this like back when I was still at school, but I haven't seen her since I graduated. And I'm not sure she knows like how much that particular performance
Mm.
kind of affected basically the trajectory of my life. So I'm not sure. I wonder if there were people there that night that saw you play and are just like, similarly kind of affected in their own way. That's an interesting thing to think of. But in my
Yeah,
mind, you were the girl with the guitar at that talent show. So that's
thanks.
pretty amazing. Um, Another interesting thing about Bates that I think changed over the years is when I was there, there weren't a lot of dedicated spaces for student kind of informal student performances. They were kind
Mm.
of multi-use spaces, so you could set up
Mm.
in the Den, which was like the kind of snack bar, diner place. You could set up in Chase Lounge, which was also used for like academic lectures and whatnot. And
Yeah.
later on, the silo was built, and that was cool. But still, there wasn't like a sound system in place there. It wasn't dedicated to that. If you wanted to perform, you really had to make it happen. And
Wow.
then I think it was right after I graduated, like maybe the year after, they built this place called the Ranch, which I don't even know if that was
Ah,
there
that
when
was
you.
a question. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, that is. I feel for you. I'm because the Ranch and the Silo are two of like the key places that were for music,
Yeah,
basically
yeah,
community music, but student run music.
yeah.
So what did you guys create? It,
Well, we did have concert series, and in fact, I was part of the is it the Free Will Folk Society? I think it was. I was.
uh,
They did contra dances, which were not really my thing, but they also gave me a budget to like book concerts on campus. So I would hire Chris Smither and John Gorka.
what?
Um, yeah, Erica Wheeler. I brought like Ellis Paul and Greg Brown to campus, and Katie Curtis.
Oh my.
And these no one knew these artists. This was not what like college kids were really listening to. But I would just go around campus, literally telling anybody who would listen to me, and some people that weren't listening, that like you need to know who Chris Smither is. Like you need to know
Yeah.
who Greg Brown is. And I would book them into it was usually the Olin Center, like the big music hall there was what, like 300 people or something. Um, and then there were other groups that brought music into the silo. What's that?
Wow. As a student, you were booking these artists and doing the
Yeah,
logistics.
yeah, because I wanted to, these were like the masters at the time. These are the people that really
Yeah.
inspired me, and I wanted access, and I wanted to exposure, and they weren't. There was no place to play in Lewiston, Maine. So I just made one, and I would bring these folks up, and then I would like there was a on campus apartment that they were put up in. They could stay in
Mhm.
for free, and I would have the key, and I would have to show them where the apartment was after. And I can't tell you how many folk singers I end up having pizza with after the gig. I think now, like as a folk singer, I think like, oh my god, if some college kid just like wanted to stay up all night, just like peppering me with questions about like how do you become a singer songwriter, like what. I'd like to think that I would be as kind as Greg Brown or Ellis Paul was, or Katie Curtis was to me. They were just so kind. But yeah, you had to
You
really
are.
make the music and happen wherever you could. And there were other groups doing it too, like the groups on campus brought in like the Neilds to the silo, and I remember I saw Ani DeFranco at the silo with like 20 other people, just like on sitting on couches watching Ani DeFranco. Like it's crazy.
I'm so wow. This is incredible. This is absolutely incredible.
Who came to campus when you played there? I mean, when you were there, who like played on campus that really blew you away?
Um, the Ballroom Thieves, Tall
Oh
Heights,
wow.
Darling Side. They were like a staple. They would come every year. they would come and play. And
Wow.
they were already really gaining traction the first year I was there, but by the last year they were like, Tall Heights was touring with Ben Folds, and Ballroom Thieves was playing at Newport, and they just kept coming back because they really liked playing for an audience that listened so deeply.
Yeah, that's wild.
What
So
a
then you
origin story, Mark.
it's wild, right? So,
Because of being a bass student and because of the like this kind of like the empty space in programming that you filled yourself as a student, you ended up meeting and curating these incredible artists to come to the school and then getting to hang out with them and ask them questions. I mean, that is so unheard of. Like, if you had chosen a path in music from the beginning, you wouldn't have been doing that probably.
right. Yeah, I think so. I mean, it really was like I was kind of looking in retrospect. I think I was kind of hungry for some sort of like master class opportunity, and I got it. I would see these artists play from like the front row, and then I would, I remember after John Gorka played. I mean, I listened to John Gorka's Jack's Crow's record like every night in high school. It was one of the relaxing pieces of music that put like anxious high school Mark to sleep every night. And I got him to come play on campus, and we got to hang out afterwards. And I remember him saying like, I'm hungry. I'd like to order some pizza. And I was like, I can definitely help with that. I was like, what would you want on it? And he's like, are you okay with mushrooms and olives? And I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, those are the two things that I cannot abide on anything. I just can't do mushrooms and I can't do olives. I don't like, and I remember thinking like, here's one of my heroes saying, let's get a mushroom and olive pizza. And I was like, totally, we should definitely get that. And I remember eating.
That is so crazy. I would have done the same thing. Sorry. Mark, I'm not. Technology. I'm not hearing you, Mark. Just give it a moment. Yeah. Oh, God. Let's see. Can you hear me now? Can I hear you?
Go, people. This is a first for me. Let's see. All right, Elisa, send requests. There you are.
Hey, what the heckity?
I don't know. That's the first for me, but that's okay. I don't know if you heard my question, but I was asking you about your experiences with the Ranj. I mean, for those that don't know about it, as I recall it, it was kind of like a little like mini Friends, like that Central Perk, kind of thing, but at Bates. And did you hang out there and play there for your friends?
I did. Yeah, I never thought of it as a Bates version of Friends, but that's really fantastic. It's a whole house that was turned into a student-run coffee house, and it had a flexible performance space that was mostly devoted to music, open mics, and storytelling events. And I quickly became friends just by spending time there. Became friends with the students who ran it, and it became like a rule that I had to play there once a semester. But yeah, they were my first real stage and any sort of consistent venue booking long before Batesie. And yeah, and it's just this like purple room with just a couple little lights that are just all facing the same direction to make it a stage sort of setting, and they just set out all these like thrifted chairs, and that was where the audience sat, and people always came, especially because it's like a home where you can get some tea and candy. I was gonna say snacks, but really they sold candy.
Oh, that's wild. It's so crazy that when I was there, it was actually like a dorm, it was a house,
Yeah,
wasn't an off-campus housing, but it was like a house where on campus people lived. I think, did I date a woman that lived in there? I can't remember. There wasn't that many, but I just can't remember the dorm. But yeah, I spent some time in that dorm, and then I remember coming back and seeing what they had done with it, and I was like, "Where was this the entire time I was here? This is exactly what I needed. All I had was the stairwell."
Oh my God, yeah. Yes, I can really imagine that. I just like it's a place that feels so right where it is, and a space that's so needed on campus that it's hard to conceptualize that it hasn't been there for actually that long at all. But it's also something that makes it stand out from any other public space on campus, is that it is completely covered in student murals everywhere inside.
Oh, that's really cool. I remember that. That's amazing.
Yeah, and Bates is a very like pristine place. It's very rare to see a space that's just like bursting with color and creativity and candy and music and people just like talking, working really hard on something or being really creative. The upstairs has a large space for that students turn into a gallery. Like it's just so important to have that kind of space where students can really express themselves and also just feel a little more at home in a place that can be so far away from anything that they are used to. So yeah, a really great place.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a metaphor for that entire time in your life, like where you really, there's just a lot of becoming going on, and I mean, colleges and liberal arts colleges can kind of get like a bad rap for the kind of cloistered, sequestered, kind of sheltered nature of that whole sort of institution. But for me, and I think for a lot of types of kids at that part of their life, I mean, it is really a gift, and it is. I've come to view that time in my life as just such an honor to have that time of life. I feel so fortunate, so privileged to have enjoyed that time to kind of cocoon a little bit and kind of rearrange the parts inside my little like protective shell, and kind of figure out what kind of butterfly I was going to be at the end of it, for lack of a better, to follow the analogy all the way through. But and places like the Range, where students can express themselves, and they can do it in a poetry slam, they can do it as a musician, they can do it as a visual artist. I mean, that's just a wonderful thing. What else? Like, what else were you into? Like, we're all like musicians now. We spend so much time talking about our music and our art and trying to make people aware of it. And I get that. But like, what other like, were you into sports? Were you into other activities, or all just like music?
Yeah, I majored in gender studies and I minored in dance.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so there wasn't even music in any of the things. I thought I had a concentration in music, but by the end of the 4 years, my concentration was in like race, ethnicity, and communities and activism or something. Like that's what ended up being my third like mini minor. But music was just like the through line through everything that I studied, because it always connected in some way. I mean, it all connected. But my main courses of study were in gender studies and dance. So I spent most like daytime was always like learning about intersectionality and feminist thought and the nonprofit industrial complex and stuff, and and then like running to a dance class and learning how to move in my body around other people's body, like, and then it was running off to rehearsals for jazz band and funk band and a cappella and
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, were you in the acapella group?
Yeah, I was wondering, were you in one?
No. It was not my thing.
Dude, I'm really proud of you.
They did a wonderful job, but it's not my thing. It still is not my thing. But you know, we share a manager. I know she was in an a cappella group, like trying to be respectful of that, but it was and remains not my thing. But there's lots of other things that, you know, other people can enjoy, and I don't have to enjoy it. It's fun.
Yes. And here's the thing: I came into college with no awareness of everything, like all of the connotations of an a cappella group. I just thought it was a singing group. Like, I grew up in a singing group.
Yeah,
and
right.
so I had no idea what I was getting into when I got into an a cappella group. It was a whole lifestyle. It was a lifestyle.
I did not know that. Yeah.
So I navigated it as best I could, and if you just don't like go for all the BS, the social craziness, and just enjoy the people, if it's a good group of people, and the music. I mean, 6-part harmony. That's pretty cool. So I lucked out. I lucked out in the a cappella department, but it was a shock.
Yeah. Now, I mean, do any like kind of defining like challenges? I'm not, you know, we don't have to talk about the personal stuff. We all have that in college, but like educational challenges, were there any kind of defining moments in college where you were like, that shaped you in a particular way that you know, kind of echo after the fact?
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads into a question I have for you about a class that changed you. I'm wondering if you have any classes that changed you. Yeah, for me.
Yeah, so many. I mean,
such like unexpected ones. Go ahead.
Well, so I was a biology major.
So cool! Wow.
I mean, that was just what I was, and I was really wrestling between biology and music the entire time that I was there. And I could see the path in biology, but I just couldn't see the path in music. And so I loved them both, but I could not reconcile the two for a while after that. But my advisor at Bates was a woman named Lee Abrahamson. She was a virologist. I'm not interested in the microscopic biology. I like, you know, ecology, like walking through swamps up to your hips in water and looking for creepy crawlies, like that, hiking a mountain. Like, that's my biology. Like, virology was not my thing, but there was a noontime campus concert series, and Lee and her husband Bob built guitars, and he built Lee's guitar and he built his guitar, and they did this free noonday concert that I went to go see, and they, you know, covered songs by David Mellett and Nancy Griffith and all these amazing people, and I just remember thinking, like, she's my advisor now, you know. And
wow.
She understands biology and the kind of music that I love.
Yeah.
And we are friends to this day, like good friends. You know, she was a really central person to me there. And I guess, like, as far as like academics go, like organic chemistry was the thing that was the big Mount goddamn Everest of science. I mean, I still
remember my roommate saying "Orgo."
Yeah, Orgo. I mean, I did it, and I did not ace it, but
you survived it.
I survived it, and then I felt so beaten down by it that I literally never walked into the chemistry building. And it was such a small place; it's really hard to avoid
God,
a particular building. But I was just like, I am done with that. Dana Hall, you're dead to me. So that was kind of my big challenge. So, wow. Well, let's see here. We're kind of coming up to the end of our. I've got a couple notes here. I've started preparing more for these things just a little bit. And I've just got a couple other things here. Like, do you? I mean, do you feel defined by your time at Bates at all? Like
Mm.
in a weird. I ask this because I am not. I'm not a joiner. I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't like. And I know that's a very privileged position that I come from, where I say like I just want to be me. I don't want to be defined by, this institution I was a part of or this group that I was a member of for a while. I know there's plenty of people that don't get that luxury, and that's something that a lot of people want. And as a white male, I have maybe a little easier time just saying like I'm just me. You need to take me on my own terms. But like it definitely defined me in ways that I'm kind of, or it sharpened and refined. Let's say refined, not defined. Yeah. It refined things that were already in me and allowed them a safe place to kind of be honed and developed and to kind of be expressed. And I was curious if you had a similar experience.
Wow. I mean, I think this is one of the reasons we get along. because I'm similar. I'm not. I still to this day find it hard to feel any sort of like excitement around being like Batesies, Bobcats, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And yet at the same time, I have a deep gratitude for that education, for that community that I found there, for these classes that changed my life, these professors that, I mean, it's just, it was such a gift. But what comes to mind as you were saying that is that I think that it's, I don't want to sound like a crazy hippie or whatever. Nothing against hippies because I am one, but maybe there's like some sort of like cosmic connection or like a reason we both went to that school, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cheesy, but stay with me here.
I'm here. Yeah.
Not only that we both ended up in that place, even though we're not like super like proud teams, whatever, but at the same time, Bates gave to us, well, we also gave to Bates. I mean, you curated a whole music series and brought these incredible artists to people who maybe had never heard them.
I introduced an entire campus to the Campus Pros when I started playing Mr. Jones at the college coffee houses. I mean, so, I did a real service to that place.
Yeah, you did a huge service. Exactly.
People thought it was my song, for crying out loud.
See, so it's I hesitate to say like that place defined us. I think we also had some, even if it's just some small way, we also gave to that space as much as it gave to us, or maybe some. I like to think that it's not all taking and receiving. It's a lot of giving too. But I remember actually something that came to mind for me was the thought that somehow in that space where we both felt isolated at different points, or like we didn't quite fit the stereotypical Bates mold, we were getting so much out of the absence of an established music scene, or the absence of a music school within the school, or like out of that like scarcity came a lot of creativity, and I'm so grateful for that, because heaven knows we have to be resourceful as musicians all the time, especially now
these days. Yeah. It's just that kind of opportunity and really the necessity to figure out how to become what you want to become at that. And Bates, I will always be forever grateful that the resources were there for if I wanted to. If I wanted to do some recording, there was a physics professor that was interested in learning how to record things and would stay over winter break with me and, do a recording on campus, or, they would have me open up for, acts that came onto campus. And I learned so much in that time, and the stakes were really low. If I screwed up, if I failed, if I was, crappy, it didn't really matter. And yet I still had opportunities to grow. And so I feel like through that process, like I wouldn't say that I was defined by my time at Bates, but I was certainly I refined a lot of things there.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, I think that's probably that's a good way to sum it all up here. I mean, we could talk for hours, but
I just want to add that it taught me how to think.
Yeah,
it taught me how to think and to navigate and even though it was like a bubble, it was also a microcosm for a whole nuanced, crazy world outside of that community that the school helped give me the tools to be able to communicate my way through and understand a little more what was going on around me in a way that I did not know before I came in.
Sure.
And I'm so grateful that I could come out of there and be able to see like violent structures and systemic violence and be able to like actually have words to respond to it and to interrogate it and to use an academic term, but also to have a lot of to just like have a lot of attention and care put on connecting with people and seeing people, and that, yeah, I mean, I think that was inside of us, but it really helps to have a space that really fosters that.
Yeah, well, and we carry it forward, in ways that maybe we're not even fully cognizant of to this day. I'm sure there's a little bit of Bates in kind of what I do and or how I do what I do.
I think, you write incredible songs, and you're a beautiful writer, and you care deeply, and you notice, and you're always ready to learn more. I think that that's in you, and it was definitely refined at Bates College.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for doing this. This is I struggle to kind of describe what this is to people, but it really is just a chance to connect about things that are not just like gigs and stuff like that.
And sadness.
It's great to talk about kind of these parts of ourselves that people may not know about, but actually play somewhat of a role in kind of the parts of us that people do know about. So
thank you. Cool. Thank you for thinking to reach out and making this happen and always finding the way to create community, even from behind your house door. And I was a little scared to say yes to talking about college, because this is the first time I've talked about it, and there's no one I would rather have spoken about it than with you.
Well, me too. I don't talk about this time in my life hardly at all, because it in many ways it's like before I was formed, and why would anyone want to know that? Yeah, so it's interesting for me to get to go back and reprocess a little bit, with you. So who knows? Maybe we'll find ourselves back on the same bill for a reunion weekend sometime. I've never really gone back for like that, but could happen.
That'd be cool. I would do it if you did it. If you do it, I'll do it.
Deal. If anyone from Bates is watching, you know what needs to happen. All right. Thanks, Elisa.
Thanks, Mike.
Enjoy your day. Yeah, appreciate it.
Big hugs to you.
All right. See you, everybody.
Bye.